Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who are in a relationship where one of you is a Cancer and the other is an Aquarius. And I brought up this combination in one of my past videos, and I said I was using it as an example, and I said something like that. This is a really weird combination. And sure enough, somebody wrote to me and said that they had this combination with their partner and that they had been married or together for like 30 years or more, something really long term. So I realized that anything is possible, and I thought I would make this compatibility video because it's always kind of fun to do these. And a Cancer and Aquarius form what is called an inconjunction, or quincunx, I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's 150 degrees apart and is considered highly, irreconcilable differences between whatever, like for instance, I have the sun in Sagittarius and Taurus rising, and they are in the degree span that they can form that in conjunction. And they just don't go together. It's a mismatch. So when you have two people, two sun signs with this combination, suffice it to say, they are not compatible on face value. Now, one of the main reasons that this is the case is because the elements are incompatible. You have water and air. And water, being the Cancer, is very emotional, nurturing, psychic, but receptive. And Aquarius is an air sign, so it's intellectual, it's detached, and it is very, it has a lot of foresight, an inventive mind. But one is coming from the mental perspective, and one is coming from the emotional perspective. And so just, if you look at it from that point of view, there's not that common ground in that way. But there are things that I found, and I always look for, I use this as a challenge to try to find common ground, because there has to be, with every two signs, common ground. And even within conjunctions, I have found some themes of compatibility, like similarities, even with these disparate types of signs and their attributes. So here are some they put. I just came up with these on my own, so whether they're true for you, I don't know. But the first thing I put down here is that both enjoy social interaction. And what I mean by that is Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is a house of hopes and wishes, but also friends and group associations. It's a humanitarian house. So it's not uncommon for an Aquarian individual, and it doesn't have to be the sun. It can be the moon. It can be some inner point that is producing this tendency that the person is there. It's almost like being revitalized by social interaction, but it is more purposeful, I think, in a lot of cases. There's usually some kind of a cause. And one of the reasons why I think this might be is because a lot of people know that Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, or you can call it Uranus or Uranus. I hear that a lot. Maybe I'll start saying Uranus so it doesn't sound like urine. Or your anus. Not mine, yours. So, Aquarius is a sign that is also ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is traditional. And so and it's also kind of serious, you know. So in the 11th house, since Saturn is the co-ruler of this house, um, Aquarius can be interested in social interactions, but it has a serious purpose, or it might have a serious purpose. And so humanitarian concerns, volunteerism, um, whatever it is, Aquarius might be a sign that's concerned about the collective and wants to make the world a better place. And Cancer is a very nurturing sign. And the one thing about Cancer is that being a feminine sign, unlike Aquarius, Cancer tends to be very personal in their affections, whereas Aquarius is very impersonal. See, I have Venus in Aquarius, and it's said that somebody with Venus in Aquarius considers everybody their friend because they're not playing favorites. You know, they kind of like enjoy that kind of universal appreciation for humanity. So they may be regarding people in different ways, but I think they both enjoy people's company. I just think that Aquarius is more open to new relationships than Cancer is. But Cancer people definitely are, even like with friends, they might kind of mother them. I also put they're both into humanitarian causes, and that's kind of an extension of the first one. And being a nurturer, Cancer is concerned about the welfare of other people. For Aquarius, it's all about this idea of the brotherhood of man, you know, that we're all connected, no matter what our geographical or our racial, nationality differences, whatever you want to call it. It's like we're all one giant planet, whatever you want to call it. The universal perspective. And so I think that, you know, you might even meet this person at some kind of a meeting for like a political organization or maybe volunteer work, but something where you're trying to make the world a better place. Both may have intellectual common ground. Now, I always associate Cancer as a sign with the teacher. And typically, that might be younger grades, but not necessarily. Cancer has an incredible memory. And this is because water is very retentive. And in addition to and that's why they say that Cancer people are, you know, really, well, Cancer rules the fourth house of home and family and the past. And so history is a study of the past. And so Cancer people who tend to have a great memory would excel as history teachers because they can remember dates and all these events. And I think also kind of just get a feel for it, bring it alive, even if it's something that, you know, the American Revolution, make that seem like it's happening right now. Aquarius is an air sign, so it's naturally intellectual. And the reason that I'm even bringing this up is because with when you're talking about a partner, people always mention physical attraction, of how important that is, especially to men. But I think that in addition to that, there's an intellectual compatibility as well as, I wouldn't say necessarily politically being on the same page, but having certain values and desires, or you know, like what I was saying about the humanitarian causes. I can't think of how I would put that, but having the same ideals maybe. And if they are centered in helping other people, that's going to be huge, because there are a lot of people that would not be into that kind of thing. And there could be a giant rift between the two people because one person doesn't value that and doesn't see the point in it. Why are you always, you work a full-time job and then you're going out and you're going to the soup kitchen? What's up with that? I want you to be home with me. And yet they're not willing to volunteer themselves. So there's like this kind of a rift there. So intellectually, you may have a particular subject that unites you. And I did put here too, both are intuitive, spiritual. So it might be more on that level, but just I wanted to bring in the intellectual because I think that could certainly materialize on its own. And that kind of thing is important because, hopefully when you're in a relationship, you're talking to somebody. You're not just occupying the same space. And obviously, when you really are with somebody that you're comfortable with, you don't have to always be talking. You can have long stretches of silence. But I'm saying that when you do talk, if you're not like hitting the mark with one another and you're not on the same wavelength, that's going to be difficult over time because both of you are interested in learning, I'm sure. And usually when people learn, they want to share what they've learned. And it's frustrating when the other person is not really motivated to learn. And I think over time that can cause a big rift because that person may seem boring to the other individual. I put this, I think this is kind of funny. I said both may be fiscally conservative because I think neither Cancers and Aquarians are not really big spenders. You might, obviously, sometimes you have to lay out a bunch of money for whatever, but in general, you might be quite interested in saving your money. And with Aquarius being right next to Capricorn, this can really be a motivation. Cancer is just like that as it is, and Aquarius is kind of, I think, is pretty, I was going to say stingy, but we can say frugal or just maybe not materialistic. Maybe that's, you can look at it in a very good light. And they say money is the number one bone of contention between couples. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'm just saying what they say. And so that could be very important if both people would rather save their money than spend it. Then they're not going to have that as an area to fight about. Now, in terms of Cancer, Cancer can take care of Aquarius because Aquarius is Aquarians can be kind of ungrounded. They're always like, they have brilliant minds, but they're kind of in their heads. And they may forget to, I know this is weird, I just say clip their toenails or something, very mundane. They might forget to wash their clothes or do something that they should do because they're not looking at it from that perspective. Whereas the Cancer person may feel the urge to kind of mother that individual. And by the way, I'm using the term mother. A man can mother his friends and his siblings and that kind of thing. It's not gender specific. It's taking care of, it's nurturing. maybe cooking for this person. Cancer can teach Aquarians to feel. I put that down. Now, there are going to be Aquarians, because Aquarians are contrarians, who, and especially Aquarius, because they bristle at the idea that you can put people into these little boxes. Isn't it funny that Aquarius rules the house of the group and the collective, and yet it wants no part of that? It wants to be an individual. It's kind of like ironic and contradictory, but that's just how you guys roll. But, when I'm talking about these different signs, this is like a template. This is like the archetypes of these signs. So that's why I'm broad brushing like this. So Aquarians can be quite detached. And that can lead to a lot of, misunderstandings between, and it's not just these two signs, any two signs where one is a water sign and one is an air sign. The water sign, and this can also apply if the person is a fire sign. Water signs can feel the same way about fire signs, but with fire signs, it's less about being emotionally detached and more about being insensitive. And because actually fire signs are emotional, they're just not emotional about personal things the way that a water sign person is. They're more objective about their passions, in life. And so how that can manifest is that, in this particular case, is that you can have the Cancer person feeling as if the Aquarian is too remote and out of touch emotionally, kind of like the King of Swords or something. But so that's why I say they can teach Aquarians to feel, or that emotional intelligence, and maybe even instruct it. Like, how do you feel about this? What are your emotions? And you might get Aquarians who really don't know. They have to kind of sit with it for a minute. Even their anger may be hard for them to access in a way. So Aquarians can expose Cancer to unusual things. So Cancers tend to be more traditional than Aquarians. Aquarians are far out. And, again, there are going to be conservative Aquarians, but even that, they might be ultra conservative. They might do something that is so that even the average conservative person wouldn't be like. Anything to be different, to stand out from the crowd. So unusual things. Now this could, like, if these are spiritual matters, because like I said, that might be where you meet this other person, in a spiritual center, at a yoga class or something like that. Aquarians may have really far out spiritual ideas, like the Galactic Federation, or star seeds, ascension, something that is like talking about the future and non-denominational, not really like in a little box, so kind of open-ended, and something that is beyond what most people know about, because Aquarians are ahead of their time. And one thing, this is another thing which is kind of interesting that Aquarians can expose Cancers to, it just came into my mind, is polyamory. I don't know how many Cancers would go along with that, but Aquarius as a sign believes that nobody owns another person. Now, obviously, you have to look at the Venus sign, the moon sign, and the moon sign can be any sign. So if you get somebody, and I've mentioned this before, who is a sun in Aquarius and the moon in Scorpio, that might not fly. They may not be into open marriages or open relationships. But they can still teach Cancers how not to be possessive, how not to be clingy or, emotionally demanding and emotionally manipulative, and be more, how would I put it? Well, you could say be more detached, but also be more, or less manipulative, because, more able to please oneself instead of looking to another person to, um, love you to the point where you are accepting of yourself. Being more independent emotionally, I guess I would put it that way. Cancers, now I'm going into what can be problematic between these two. Cancers can be too clingy. Cancer can be a sign that wants, Cancer rules the home and hearth and family life. Cancer might think that Aquarius is too detached from the home base if they are raising a family, for instance, and may feel like they have to keep that person under lock and key. When somebody does something like that, that causes the other person to run for the hills. If they are, more freedom loving, and certainly Aquarians are like that. Cancer may be more conservative overall. This may, people these days think that conservative means political issues. And while that can certainly be the case, and that can be enough to create conflict, it can be just in general. It can be about, should we live together or get married? Should we have children? Should we even have children? Yes, this is what most people do, and I want to do what most people do. That might be the Cancer's attitude. I want to be, I like what most people do. Aquarians tend to be like, if all these people like something, then there must be something wrong with it. And I better not do it. If most people do something, I better not do that thing. And sometimes, Aquarians, I think, get like a little bit frustrated, exasperated with people who are not progressive enough, who don't think like them. And there can be an arrogance sometimes with Aquarius, a feeling of intellectual superiority, a smugness, that they are more tolerant, broad-minded. And so there can be those kinds of clashes in terms of ideologies. Cancer may be emotionally, Cancer may be emotionally high maintenance. I should say high maintenance emotionally. That would be better syntax. And what I mean by that is that they might need more affection, attention, all those things, where Aquarius might not. Aquarius might be happy left to their own devices, and they don't need to have somebody hold their hand, figuratively speaking, or even maybe even literally, And Cancers, because they are a water sign, they tend to, and they're ruled by the moon, so there's a lot of fluctuations. They tend to be moody, so they tend to have emotional fluctuations, probably a lot more than the average Aquarius, unless the Aquarian has the moon in Cancer, and then that's a different story. I said that Aquarians may have commitment issues, but I do feel that they're loyal once they decide on a partner because they're a fixed sign. But they can have commitment issues precisely because they love freedom. And if if they feel like the other party is too emotionally demanding, that may really make them less inclined to want to get together with this person and be a serious relationship. They're more likely to agree to be with somebody if that person gives them a long leash. And they can be too detached. That was the last thing I put down. And, detachment is not a bad thing because you don't get caught up in emotion. But when a person is too detached, it's very hard for them to express emotion, to receive the emotions of other people in a way that is not where they don't feel it's off-putting. They can feel just very uncomfortable with strong emotions, and then they just try to distance themselves from it, and it's an attempt to stay above the fray, I guess, but it can give off this vibe of not caring, enough. And that's not true. It's just that everyone has a different way of showing affection and showing that they love someone else. And this is why we can't jump to conclusions. We have to have conversations. We have to have dialogues with people, because we may just inject something into what is going on that is just not the case. So anyway, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I do have relationship readings where I look at both parties' charts, and if there's a third party, there's that option as well. And I'm looking at each chart individually. I'm not putting them together. I'm treating people as individuals. And I have all kinds of readings, including natal chart interpretations. You can find out more information at rainamoonastrology.com. The link is below. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.